Bryce, my main man Matthew's back in the house today. Of course, you guys know Bryce from his podcast. It was Deep and Lonely. Deep and Lonely. And then he switched it over. He just now dropped the Semper Dogging. And I'm going to tell you, Bryce was down here in December with me, and he was Semper Dogging everything. Hey, take a picture of this. Hey, we're going to get this on video. Hey, like Semper Dog, Semper Dog, Semper Dog. So you guys go over if you haven't. I know that we kind of run two different platforms. Bryce is in the coon hunting world, but he's going to do some switching over and get a little bit more broad with the stuff that he does. And like I said, Bryce has been coming down here for, 4 or 5 years, we said?
I think we figured it out. We got it figured out. It's been 4 years and 5 trips.
Yes, because you come twice the first year. That's right, yep. When we had Chad in. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so just a real quick recap how Bryce and my relationship started. We done a freedom hunt for Freedom Hunters, Anthony Pace and that group. And, Houndsman XP is tied in tight with those guys. And, we want to give back and share our love for what we do with people. And there's no better people to do it with than the military. So my very first freedom hunt, Bryce came down and was kind of, I don't know if he was hired out, but he come down to video it.
There was no hiring, I promise.
So Bryce come down and videoed the hunt with Chad McCoy. Chad's super good dude. He was in the Special Forces. And, we've made a lot of good relationships through Freedom Hunters and doing those hunts. So I'm kind of honored that I'm able to do that because, we do stuff. We the sport that we're in, not a lot of people, even though it looks awful big, but in the grand scheme of things, there's not a lot of people that do what we do and chase dogs around. Mm-hmm. So that's how Bryce and I met. Then he come back in December and hunted again and took his first bear. I remember that well.
Yeah, don't we all? I bet old Fuzzy remembers that one too.
Yeah. And then, I think you took one. We didn't take one. Yeah, you did last year. The year before that when Steve was with you.
Yeah, when Basham come, we didn't take one.
Right. It was all sales. And we've tried to stay away from that. And then last year you got one, was in a hole, and then this year you got a nice one, and maybe we'll round out that. Maybe we'll talk about that story a little bit because it got a little Western.
Oh, did it ever? It was a good time. I mean, I wouldn't say good time, but it was exciting for sure.
Got a little sideways. I got to do it. Wesley got on me. He said, "Man, you got to start carrying a gun. You got to start doing better." And I, honestly, Bryce, I hate it. I hate taking a gun.
I know. Let's save that story for the end though. Let's round it out with that one.
Yeah, we'll do that. So we got Bryce in, and we're just going to talk about bear hunting just a little bit. Well, we're going to go over some hunts, and then, of course, Bryce was only here for the first week. He and I have kind of chatted, and I sent him some videos and pictures of kind of the rest of the season. We'll kind of cap that off, and then I'm going to kind of break down my pack, let you guys know where we're at. I know some of you guys have asked about the A-litter. We'll break them down. I'll kind of tell you where they're at with mine, and then before we end up with the cowboy story, we're going to break down a new litter that I have. I'm always excited about my litters because you never know what to expect. Like, you just don't know. And they're a handful. They are into everything. My neighbors thank the Lord I have good neighbors because they're baying their horses up. They're chasing Travis's cows, and he'll like, "Hey, you home? Yeah, what you got?" And he goes, "Can you holler at your puppies?" They're running my cows through the field. So I've got great neighbors, and I'm blessed. And of course, we break them from that stuff because we don't want them to do it. But yeah, so.
No, I know whenever I was down there that one day, you were leaving to go somewhere, and you called me. You said, "Hey, will you step out the door and call for them pups? They're trying to help the neighbor load the horse into the trailer. They don't need their help."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were down at Chloe, down at the barn. Yeah. And I mean, and that's a good thing because, like, I've got a stable beside me. They lease some of the land. They lease the land for people to board their horses. There's multiple dogs running in and out because all the horse people have dogs with them. And then on the other side of my driveway, Travis is running, I don't know, 20, 30 head of cattle. And so, yeah, they have plenty of opportunity to get into mischief.
For sure.
Yeah. So, Bryce, just real quick, let's run down your week. You don't have to go in depth on it. We'll hit more in depth on what after you left, but your week, tell us about it.
Yeah, so started out. We went over there, hung out over there, did a nice job getting everybody rounded up where they needed to be positioned before the day started. Once everybody was where they needed to be, then we took off hiking and walked in, and Spook kept trying to range out a little bit, and he'd make a loop and he'd come back, and he'd make a loop and he'd come back, and you were like, I'm really not sure what's going on here, but nothing. He never would stick nothing. He kept kind of coming back, and about the third time he did it, Hot Rod's dogs opened up and kind of were working down the holler and down towards the creek down there. And, Spook had took off and Kate took off and joined them. And within no time, we had a bear in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a, pretty quick race, and walked in there pretty thick. And, one of the coolest things that I think I enjoy about going down and hunting with you guys is I'm pretty sure that every year since I've come the first year, whenever I see Forrest, Wesley, Fuzzy, when I see all those guys for the first time in Virginia, it's at the base of a tree. Like it is like, we don't meet up beforehand. And, it's like you're trekking through the mountains, and then bam, there you go. There's your friends you haven't seen in a year. And everybody, shakes hands, rubs elbows, and at the base of a bear tree.
Yeah.
So I've always found that interesting. But, we were able to sit there at that tree for a while and really just look at that bear and study it and make an informed decision whether we were going to harvest that bear or not. And the group decided not to harvest it. We let it live another day. And it was just really neat. Chris has been talking a lot about responsible conservation, wildlife conservation, and how hound hunters really get a firsthand opportunity to see what they're working with and what the game that their hounds have treed. And are we going to harvest it or not? Or we get a chance to make that decision, and we get time to sit there and study it. And that's what we did. We opted not to harvest that bear. So, that was just really nice to see all the teamwork. Everybody did a good job. And while we were at that tree, Forest dog bumped off on their own, and they treed 2 more bear. So
3.
Yeah, 3. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We did not make it to those trees. Forrest kind of went off and did his thing, got his dogs rounded up. And then we're walking out, just kind of coming down the mountain where the trucks were going to be at. It's just easier to go out. And let me get my story straight here. I got to make sure I'm remembering right. I believe that's when Hunter and Greg's dogs treed. Right? Or am I missing a bear in between there? We treed so many bears the first day, I'm having a hard time remembering.
It was 5. And you remember
5 bears, 4 trees, right?
Yes. Remember, because we called Chris Powell because he was on his way to Virginia. We FaceTimed him and said, Powell, if you want to catch bear, you got to get you a walker dog.
Yep, we sure did. We were at the tree, had a bear in the air. And, I was like, honestly thinking, I was like, on that last tree, I was like, if this is how the week is going to go, then I am not ready for it, because that sucker was in some terrain you had to be a mountain goat to get up to. Every step you took, it was, okay, am I going to break an ankle, twist a knee, or what's happening here? Because it was nothing but straight up and down rocks.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a difficult climb.
It was. And, and once we got where the dogs were at on the tree, like, there was no footing. I mean, it was just sliding. It was like a landslide the whole time.
It was
straight rock and
shale. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was nowhere to sit or stand or do anything.
I'll tell you what, it was so bad in there that we hollered on the radio, and Bryce and I didn't have no dogs at that tree. We tied ours up down at the bottom of the mountain, and we hollered back and told Hunter and Forrest, don't come up here. We got them. Don't come up here. Like,
absolutely.
Because it was no sense in it.
No, it wasn't a bear that we were willing to harvest. there was just no point in more people coming up there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I took some videos and made a little reel about it, just tried to show just how steep it was, because guys, I'm telling you, this Flatlander is not prepared for that. Every year I go down there, I'm like, all right, I'm ready. And then I get there, I'm like, no, I'm not.
We got to do the GoWild. They're doing the Mountain Tough.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know the viewers can't see it, but right on the home screen of my phone is the Mountain Tough logo, you know, so that my fat self can remember to do the workout. And yeah, I did it probably religiously for about a month. And I can honestly say it is a very difficult workout, but it's very attainable and achievable. I felt good doing it. And then life happened and I haven't got back to it, but Nikki's on me. She's like, we gotta get back on Mountain Tough. So it is a good program. And I really can't say I've used it for a month and I recommend it.
Yeah. I got to do better. My goal, because of course my job has changed a little bit and I'm going to have a little more freedom. So next year I plan on being in tip top shape. Like, I don't know that I can do my 30 back in the 30 when I was 30, but I'm going to be in a lot better shape than I have been.
Yeah. I mean, that's just something, you know, being a houndsman, you know, I don't try really hard for physical conditioning, but I feel like just as many miles as we walk through the woods, you know, it's different than just walking around on flat ground all day. So even here in Indiana, just getting through the woods, you really do stay in pretty decent shape, and it's good exercise. So,
oh yeah. Day two. Oh, this was Sassy's day. You have to tell that story. I'm gonna let you tell it.
Okay, like I said, I have slept since then. So, day two, we didn't have a lot going on. We had tried to rig, just didn't have much luck, didn't have hardly anything going on. And we ended up going to, I think it was the same place that we went as day one. And I think it was Hot Rod again was walking through and he said, you know, man, my dogs, they've been pecking around. They just ain't getting nothing going, but they're moving forward. It's like they were really grubbing it up. And you said, all right, well, we don't have anything else going on. We're just going to park here and I'm going to turn Sassy loose just to let her stretch her legs. But he said, I bet you something. He said, she's going to be running something here in no time.
Sorry, Hot Rod. Sorry, I about sabotaged you.
He said, it might be junk and there's a good chance it's junk. He said, but I promise you, this little jit will be running something. And by golly, if she didn't kind of work her way in there no, she did take off running something at first, I think. And then she come back and she went towards Hot Rod's dogs, if I'm not mistaken. And she went right in there to them and she got in that track with them and she smoked this track. And you looked at me and I looked at you and I was like, all right, they're running something. We didn't lay eyes on it. We didn't know what it was. But
I tell
Sassy
you,
and one of Hot Rod's dogs were running something.
I said, I can't pack a 10-month-old. I'm sorry. They're gonna have to do it themselves or what. But they come right towards us, and we was like, okay, so we're gonna get right here. If it crosses, we're gonna see it. And literally within 150 yards of us, they pull up.
They pulled up, and you had told me, you said, all right, you know, so she's made a few races and run a few bear, but she's not staying treed. And that's exactly what happened. You know, you tried to get in there as quick as you could. I stayed back for a second trying to gather some stuff and got in there. By the time we got in there, she'd come off the tree and she made a big loop coming around, and we ended up catching her again. And that's where one of my favorite pictures, you know, you're kind of just goofing around. You grabbed her and you're holding her up and like, here's the bear. Like the bear's right here and you're holding her. And it was just a great photo opportunity. And, you know, not poking fun of you, but kind of poking fun of you. It was just caught you in a moment where you weren't expecting it. So you guys can see that on my Facebook page. You saw it. And you know, even over on the Simper Doggin podcast page, I think that picture's over there. But no, Sassy did a fantastic job on that track. She smoked it, just lined it out and drove it.
Yeah. She's my upcoming. I mean, so you guys, I'll talk about her a little bit. Well, I'll go ahead and just kind of fill you in. So she's a 10-month-old dog that I got from some of my buddies up in West Virginia, Carl and Chris, and I could not be, and you don't know how dogs are going to end up. She will not be a year old until next month. Yeah. So anyway, I've got high hopes for her, but you know how we get disappointed. but she's a little female. When Bryce and I get to talking about our track training in a little bit, I'll come back to her because she was the second dog that I actually did this with, and I knew that she would trail a little bit, and I knew that she liked to run a track. Staying treed every race. She made every race in training season. Now, when I say every race, I didn't hunt her, but 5 or 6 times. She's too young for me. That's my personal opinion. So the 5 or 6 times that I had her out with Spook, I mean, she was making races. In fact, she made a race one day that was a little over 16 miles, and when I caught the dog, she was the third dog that I caught, and this dog wasn't 8 months old. 7, 8, right at 8 months old. So that's a good sign. That's just okay, she goes, she's good, she's keeping up. So she won't stay treed. I try to get in the tree, and I will tell you guys a little bit of her breeding. So, she is out of the Kemp line of dogs. She did not come from Mike, but her pedigree has Kemp dogs in them. So I know from experience from Spook and Kate that those dogs tend to be a little slow coming about treeing. I mean, Spook and Kate were 1.5 years before they would really stay treed. So it didn't bother me. And then, of course, we do that Tuesday, and Wednesday we didn't do anything. I don't think
nothing.
Nada.
Nope. That was the only day we didn't tree a bear, I think.
Yep.
Oh, no. That's the day that Greg forgot his glasses at home and he didn't see the bear.
Oh, the one about run over him.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, yeah. Because
we switched locations.
Maggie, remember Maggie brought the bear right by him. Poor Greg, if you're listening to this, Grandpa, we got to pick on you. So Greg catches all of his dogs. He goes, she ain't running nothing. And so and Maggie's my dog that I let Wesley borrow. And when she come by me, I saw Bryce like, what you going to do? I said, I'm going to pack her up. So I put Attica, which is the A-litter, and Rogue. So Attica and Rogue are both under 20 months old or younger. And as soon as they got in there, it was they gone, hooray to rail, gone. And they made a big loop, went up the mountain, come back, and literally run the thing right down on Greg. And Heiner's like, there it is, Dad.
God, it was great.
Oh. Yeah, and then we blowed that race up. We all have a tendency to blow things up. Well, that one got blowed up.
It did. It went to pot quick.
Yeah. Yes. Too many dogs when it went back the way it come back in, and you know how that is. A lot of dogs went backwards, and then the other dogs kept making circles and never could figure it out. So it happens. And then Thursday, do we want to leave Thursday out? Yes. Let's leave Thursday out.
Okay.
We'll leave it for last.
Okay.
We will wrap up with Thursday's hunt.
That'll work.
So you got to listen to the end.
Yep.
Friday. All right, let's talk about Friday.
Friday, let's see here, because I didn't hunt Saturday. So Friday was my last day. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have a lot going on. But, go ahead.
Thursday flipped the trigger on Sassy. So we got to put that out there. We got to put that out there.
You're correct. Thursday was a monumental day for Sassy. And so knowing that, and knowing you're not going to hear it till the end of the podcast, keep that in mind. So Friday didn't have a lot going on. And once again, this seemed to be a common theme throughout the week. Hot Rod's dogs. I am going to get that right. Yeah, Hot Rod, not Hot Dog, Hot Rod. His dogs had a track working, and we were right. Okay, they're going over here, and they're going to a place where we really didn't want them to go. So we tried to drive around and cut them off. Mm-hmm. Well, it almost acted like the bear had hit the road and turned and went back. The dog did something weird, and we're not sure what happened there, because she was working a good track. And on the way to where we were going to cut her off, you had your dogs in the box. Mm-hmm. And this is the day we were hunting the B team. We didn't even have Spook and Kate or nobody with us. Mm-hmm. We had the B team.
Yep.
And the dogs were down in the box, and we're driving up through the road, and the box exploded. And you're like, okay, like I know where that was at. I'm not sure what it was, but I know where that was at. And we drove up there, waiting to kind of see what Hot Rod's dogs were going to do. And like I said, something just was off. Nobody really knows what happened, but you're like, okay, we're going to go back down here where these dogs blew up, and we're going to see if they blew up in the same spot again.
So we put them we put them up top, remember?
Yeah,
so
correct. We put them back. We put them up on the rig this time.
Yeah. So you guys that's heard this podcast or listened to it, you know that I do not have head holes for my dogs to stick their heads out. I don't like it. I have slides, a 4-inch slide. My dog can literally stick his about half of his nose out the box, and that's it. So if I want and they opened in the box, and me and Bryce talked about it, we know that was smoking. Like, it was smoking. So I put them up on top, and we go back down the mountain, and then go ahead.
Yep. So we go back down the mountain, and we get right where they opened up the first time, and boom, they blow up again. So we turned them loose, and they had went kind of down off the road. Mm-hmm. And they made, they took off like they were running, like they smelt it good and were running a good track. And they made a loop, and it kind of busted up for a second. Mm-hmm. And you're like, man, gosh, I just don't know what happened there. You and I were kind of looking for some tracks to see if we could find some bear tracks coming across the road. And the dogs kind of shut up a little bit, but Sassy and Rogue, was it Sassy and Rogue? Axe. Mm-hmm. Sassy and Axe. That's right. Sassy and Axe. Those two kind of packed up together, and they started straight lining a track. And where everybody else is kind of blown up, they straight lined it a little bit. And before long, here they come across the road. And guys, watching these dogs on the Garmin, Sassy, like you said, you've heard Heath say on this podcast, she's not even a year old yet. Axe, he's not an old dog by any means. He's still what I think, if you've listened to Heath's breakdown of dog ages, he's still a young dog. Mm-hmm. And these two are moving a track, and they're going where we don't want them to go. We already know that, but at this point, it's too far gone. Like, they're just hopefully they catch the bear. And we end up losing communication with them. And man, we drove to the top of this mountain, and Heath was like, all right, well, get ready. He said, it's getting ready to be a rough ride. And I said, what do you mean? He's like, this road went to pot. He said, it's just going to be a rough ride. We're going to drive as far as we can to them, and then we'll walk. I said, okay. So I'm holding on. And guys, when I'm telling you this road's rough, I mean, it's rough. If Chris wants to talk about where his truck would go, I want you to know that his Toyota would not have went where his Chevy went. Because it was bad. And I'd just like to give Chris a hard time. But for real, I mean, it just rutted up and cross-rutted and having to go off the path through the woods to get where they were at on a little trail somebody else had cut through. It was just rough. And we got within 300 yards of them. And, my Indiana brain, I'm like, 300 yards, bingo. We'll be there in no time. I didn't think that, I didn't take into mountain consideration, the drop off and the elevation change. And we get to the top of this mountain, and guys, they were straight below us. I mean, straight below us in 300 yards. So Heath and I go down there, and we are slipping and sliding, and I felt like I was going to end up like Hank Jr. falling down the mountain, busting my face. At one point, I did fall. I did catch my leg in a crevice of 2 rocks, and I twisted my knee pretty good. And so I wasn't keeping up with Heath, and he got down there, and about the time he looked up and gave me the thumbs up, I saw the bear in the air. And guess what? Little Sassy was sitting right there at the base of the tree, just hammering away. I mean, she was smoking it. She was toenailed into the wood. Just treating her little heart out, and, seeing what we saw on Thursday, which we're going to get to. We haven't forgot about it. Mm-hmm. Seeing what we saw on Thursday and seeing her like that on Friday, it was amazing. It was that was the first time I've seen a dog's switch flip.
Yeah. From Tuesday to Friday, three days of hunt. And I don't even know why I hunted her 3 days. I don't know, because I did not do that after you left. I hunted her 1 or 2 days here and there, but I didn't hunt her 3 days in a row.
And not that, you don't like to have good dog work, but, whenever I come down there, I've hunted with you guys enough like that. I feel like there's no pressure whenever I'm with the group. Like, you guys can do whatever you want to do. There's no pressure to tree a bear. I've seen your guys' dogs tree bears. So if you want to take a young dog and hunt them and give them some experience, like, that's great. I'm here to see some dog work. So I don't know if that's why you hunted her or not, because that I'm not going to pressure you guys or anything like that, but she did a good job.
Yeah. So I just want to back up on that a little bit. So when they rigged that track, I had 6 dogs with, 1, 2, Houdini and Hart, Axe, Attica I did not have that day because her feet.
Mm-hmm.
I had Axe, Rogue, and I had 5 dogs. So that's what we're saying about the B team is they were all of my younger dogs for 2 and under. And we packed them. I packed everything I had off the truck. They all go backwards. It was about 200 yards. Sassy and Axe turned and come back. They got across the road before we could get to them. But now we pulled down there and seen Hootie and Hart and Rogue cross because we were talking. We were trying to video it.
Yeah, we were trying to, and we ended up getting right in the daggone back.
Middle of it. Yeah, we literally pulled right up in the middle of where they crossed. So that was a cluster. And then I'm like, well, we might as well let them go because the other two's already halfway there. So that was the decision. And then, yeah, we had to go out the mountain a good 4 miles. And I mean, I don't like, my truck's old. It's got a lot of miles on it. And I'm not particularly careful with it, but I don't like beating it all to pieces either. I'm afraid it's going to fall apart from the rust.
Well, you got them big old brush guards on the front and back. Might snap it right in the middle.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, so seeing her down there, and seeing her down there treeing, and seeing, like Bryce said, from knowing what I seen in training season and the day that I had her out on Tuesday, and just her flipping that switch, like it really, that's what excites me about dogs. The young dogs starting to put it together, and then when they can put it together and catch their own game, like that's what that's what drives me is the young dogs.
Yeah, and it was awesome for me to see too, because I've never seen a dog just like literally get to see it flip the switch, and we saw it from holding her up in the air like, hey, here's the bear in the air to just toenail on the wood tree, and like,
yeah,
the middle part is what did it.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get to that. So I'll just give you guys a quick rundown. We'll kind of go through season, and I know Bryce wants to talk about some training that we've been doing. That was the first week. Second week, Bob come down. We call him Uncle Bob. Him and Bugs come down and hunted. Ariel and Taylor were down with me hunting that week. Had a really good week. The weather changed a little bit. We had some snow, and it froze up. So it was kind of hit or miss that week. We caught Monday, didn't do anything. Tuesday, caught a bear. Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah, Wednesday we tracked bear in the snow all day long, and that was a cluster. And then Thursday, Taylor was able to take his bear. And Friday, Axe and Attica caught a bear by themselves. Was really tickled with that. Like I said, they're not 2 years old yet, so that's promising. And let's see, I don't know what we did the rest of the week. Then the next, we had a good season. We had a really good season. I think the most exciting part, and I know I sent you guys a video, and I know I sent you maybe an extra text or two because I hunted what we call the B team. I hunted them quite a bit towards the end of season. Oh, in fact, the last bear I treed, me and Maddie, the last day that I hunted, the B team, Attica struck a bear, and Attica and Axe, Hootie and Hart, Rogue. Yeah, Axe and Attica. Yeah, I only had 5 dogs. Yeah, those 5. And Chris's blue dog was with them. He was with them on that one. So, yeah, that was exciting for me, and that's something that I'm looking forward to next year is to build on that. And of course, when we get into the bee litter here in a minute, but yeah, that was the being able to take the younger dogs, and I think Doug DeVost and I did a podcast here a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, and Doug and I talked about that seeing those young dogs come together and put it together is the most rewarding for me. That's what drives me. I love training and the learning of the dogs and watching how each dog learns. And so overall, it was a good year.
Yeah, just looking at some of the group texts and stuff like that, just talking to you on the phone, it sounded like you guys had a really good year. And then, watching Wesley's recap video, He did a really good job putting a recap video. He does that every year. He does a pretty
Mm-hmm.
solid job putting that video together for what you guys do. And you guys got a solid team going on. You got a good thing going.
Yeah. So, what training? I don't remember the little pup's name that you were training.
Tramp.
Oh, double tramp.
Yep.
Tramp stamp.
That's it. The tramp stamp. Her mama's name's Hooker, so it was only fitting that she was the tramp stamp.
All right. So tell me about. I know, like I said, you and I had text, and we had just had a couple phone calls because you were going through the process. And tell me your experience. Tell me where you're at to date, and good and bad. I mean, like what. I know we had some hangups along the way, but
yeah, yep, for sure. Okay, so Tramp, I'll give you just a quick rundown background off of her. She is out of Breakbox and High Point Hooker. This was a semen cross that it was planned out and it took a lot of work to get done. My good buddy Rocky Peace up in Pennsylvania had a big part of that, and I've hunted a couple dogs for Rocky before, and he had called me up whenever he made that cross and said, man, I'm really excited about this. Like, I'm pumped about this cross. He said, I think it's going to be a nice one. I was like, yeah, that's great. Like good for you. And honestly, like not trying to be sarcastic, I was like really proud of him for it and glad that he was able to make that happen. But I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to afford one of the pups out of that cross because Breakbox semen's pretty sought after. And, he had texted me, I don't know, 6-8 weeks later. And he said, hey, I've got this female out of this cross. He said, I know you really wanted one. Are you still interested if I can get it to you? I know you wanted a male, but would you take a female? I said, yeah. So, Rocky and I, we struck a deal and got this little jit picked up at Autumn Oaks, just as a puppy, an 8-week-old puppy. And I'd listened to your podcast that you'd done on scent imprinting. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. It is big in the coonhound world. People imprint all the time. They just do it differently than the methods that you had talked about. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try the methods that Heath has talked about. And I got quite a bit of flack on it. People were joking around. They were joking around on Facebook, but like the private messages that come through, like there were some people who were just like, man, like you're an idiot for trying this. There's no way this is going to work. Like, why would you change up a method that has been working for years? Like you've got a pup out of this cross that a lot of people wanted. Some people said it was the cross of the year, and you're going to jack it up with this method that nobody's ever tried in the coonhounds, or at least not talked about and been visual and open about. I was like, yeah, I'm going to try it. So long story short, I went through the whole process that you talked about from, getting her exposed to the scent just by having it on a rag, placed under a bowl that had some holes drilled in it. So every time she ate, she was getting that odor into her nose and waking up her nose. And then we went on to, the whistle. The whistle is where I got the most crap. People were riding me hard on this one. Just the classical conditioning. Blow the whistle, the dog knows time to look for food. They come out, it's time to eat. Well, then it got, a little bit harder. So I would lay a little drag. A 10-foot drag is what I started at, just like you told me. A 10-foot drag. Blow the whistle, go there. The dog would smell it. Boom. 10 feet. There's the food. There's the reward. And, I did this for a few weeks and I made it just harder and harder. And it got to the point where, so my property is not laid out like yours. I don't have a lot of obstructions in my yard. I don't have any trees. I have 0 trees in my yard. It's all cattle pasture. So it's harder for me to hide the food bowl in a place where that she's not going to see it and not just be looking for it. So I had to get creative, and hide it behind some coolers and hide it behind, I don't know. I took a tote and put it out in the yard, just try and hide it. And I hid it in the garden one day, like in the brush, just trying everything I could to hide this. And it got to the point where I thought my yard was kind of just used up. And that's where she wasn't doing like she was before. She'd go blow the whistle. She'd go find the track, put her nose to the ground, run it, find the food. And then it's like the game got boring for her. She lost interest in it. She just quit doing it. So that's when I talked to you and you said, hey, put her up for a little bit, quit doing that drill, do something different where she's still learning. She's still having to work for her food, but change it up. Like give her a different task. And that's where I put the video on there of trying to get her loaded into the dog box. She was a little puppy, so I built her a ramp out of some show benches and laid a little drag up on the show benches, put her food in the dog box, and my gosh, she went right up there. And that was an obstacle she had to overcome. She'd never been on that type of surface. She had never been on an elevated surface. So there was a lot going on there. She had to overcome that. And it took her, I don't know, a couple tries to get it figured out. So you told me just change things up, try different things with her. And that's what I did. And I ended up working out to, and I had to tailor it specifically for the coon hunting because I don't want her running a 6-hour-old track. In the competition world, that doesn't win most of the time. So I did tailor it more to the coon hunting where I'd lay the track and I'd wait 10 minutes or I'd wait, 20 minutes and get her to run that track. And that's what I was trying to do. But I never could get her treeing. So that's kind of where I'm at today is that dog will run a track. I can cut her loose by herself. She is, she's 7 months old. She runs the track great. She'll go in there and she'll be at the base of the tree where the coon is, but she's not treeing yet. And I should note that up until last week, she had never seen a live coon, and I've never done anything with her other than the scent drag. And I did have a dead coon that I'd let her chew on one time, but she'd never seen a live coon. So last week I did trap a live coon for her. She was pumped up about it. She got all excited and amped up. I did turn that coon loose, and she went and she tracked it, got to the tree, stood up on the tree, but never did tree on it. So that's where I'm working at right now. And I'm okay with that because the other jip that I'm hunting right now, Caddy, she didn't tree until she was 16 months old. She did the same exact thing. And now when she does pull up, she's been pretty accurate. So I'm not too concerned about it yet. Like I said, she's only 7 months old. It is literally like 2 degrees up here last night in Indiana. So I haven't hunted her for a week. I haven't hunted any dogs for a week. It's just been too daggone cold. And I don't think the coons are moving personally. People can say that, yeah, there's a coon moving somewhere, but I don't think it's worth it for young dogs. I think he would do more harm than good right now. So I've just kind of got him put up, and that's where I'm at with her.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a little recap on the two. So I did the accidental litter that I had. You guys have heard me talk about them, and I've got 2 of those pups right now. You cannot take them to the woods and turn them loose because they gone. And when I say gone, the first thing they can run, they're taking it. So I got to do some trash breaking. They're trashy. So I took them this year maybe 2 or 3 times a piece, but it was mostly more of a problem than it was because I didn't have them broke, I guess is what you could say, or at least slowed down from it. But I don't, at 8 months old, I really don't want to, do that at that point either. So. But yeah, so I've done that litter and Sassy. So that's the 2. I've got 3 that I've done now because I've done the B litter too. But one thing that I've seen over doing this training method, Bryce, and you and I've talked about it, is the dogs go through phases. And one thing that you and I talked about, the difference in a pack and a single.
Yep, and I'm doing it completely single.
Yes. Your dog did not have its litter mate to bounce off of when it made a lose. So it sometimes it made a loss and didn't know what to do and just was like, oh, okay, I'm done. Where I've got 4 or 5 or 6, whatever I've had at the time, working as a pack. And we noticed through our conversations that the pack seemed to be more consistent.
Right. I mean, like you said, at that young age, there's power in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And, nobody knows what they're doing, but everybody's doing something.
That's right. Yeah.
And, with Tramp, she could do something. And then she's like, screw it. I'm frustrated, So like you said, we did change things up and gave her some different tasks just to keep her mind engaged, keep that nose working, but not make it as difficult and not make it so redundant for her. I will say, quick little side story, just to interject one time. I was hunting right before it got cold here, and it was just kind of cute how it happened. She went out by herself. Like I said, she'll go hunting by herself. She doesn't range out real far yet, but she's 400 or 500 yards by herself, and she stood in one area for a while, and then she come back to me, and she come back to me holding nothing but a coontail. She just had that coontail in her mouth. I mean, she was playing with it like a cat, throwing it up in the air, swatting it, coontail. And, well, then she went on hunting again, but it was kind of cute the way she come back holding that coontail.
Yeah, you told me. He's like, I don't know where she got it at, but she got it.
She found it somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. So the things that I've seen with what I've done, like I said, I've done it through a litter. Sassy, I incorporated her into that litter because she was just a month older, 2 months older. So I kind of run her in the pack too. And then the B litter is there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be days that the dogs don't do what you're expecting them to do. When you see them, and I'm talking about the pack because that's what I've operated off of mostly. When you see them either going backwards or at a standstill, they're not making improvements. Like you said, they're kind of bored with it. Change it up. Just like what Bryce was talking about, man. I'm feeding mine up on top of a bench, or I'm using that bench so they can load up in the truck, or I'm doing something with them that is still food related. They're still getting to eat their food, but I'm doing a different task or exercise. And then give them a week or so, or a couple days, a week, whatever. Then go back, and you're going to see either the dog's going to progress, or maybe it's time to put that pup up for a little bit and start doing something that, leading it or whatever you're doing. I do recalls with every exercise that I do is basically a recall exercise with the food. And Bryce can attest, my dogs can be down here in the field, not even seeing them. And when I whistle, they'll almost knock your feet out because they know that food's coming.
Yep. And that's what I've done with Tramp too. I can just call for her now, hit the tone button. If she's somewhere I don't need her be getting her across the road, and she's coming to me. So I am very pleased with how she did latch onto that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, you're going to have ups and downs, and you're going to have to adjust. Like I say, and one thing that I've seen with the pack is you're going to have one of the dogs that is a different style of dog that may not want to trail so much. So I've got, most of my dogs are got Kemp blood in them, and they've got running dog in them. And I'll have one or two that'll pick the head up and cut and slash and try to go wind it. And then it's kind of funny to watch that litter, especially the B litter. Like I've got two that'll put their nose down and they'll work it. And then I have the other one, like he's running basically the boundaries of the yard trying to pick up the odor so he can go to it. Like it's so crazy to watch the differences in the dogs.
Yeah, another thing that I do want to add on this, and this may be more of a question than a statement. Let's see, how do I want to word this? So Tramp, and you and I've talked about this, she never did get excited enough to open whenever I was laying them drags. Mm-hmm. She just didn't. And I believe this is the question part. You told me that was because she wasn't in prey drive yet. Mm-hmm. Like she wasn't triggered enough to be in prey drive. Mm-hmm. And so what I have seen is she's still not opening a ton, but she is starting to open a little bit. Every time I take her out in the woods, she's opening more. And she's, straight lining something out a little bit more. She's still losing it. Now, she hasn't made a tree on her own yet, but she is opening more. But have you seen something different with your pack? Were they opening younger because of a group setting?
Well, all right, we got to establish something first. When you're saying that she would not open, we're talking about on the synthetic odor.
Correct.
Now that you've taken her out into the wild, she's opening. So
correct.
Okay. Yes. And I told you, my dogs never open on the synthetic. I may, back when I had Belle and Clyde and them, they may have opened on some tracks. I can't say yes or no. I don't remember that far back, but since I've been doing this for the last year and a half, whatever it's been, a good year anyway, my pups don't open on those tracks because it's synthetic. And when I was talking about the prey drive, it's different than live odor. With live odor, and we'll just talk about scent real quick. You're dropping dead skin cells, and you're running live rafts, which is live skin cells. So you're getting two different variations of the scent picture there. And the dog, that's the natural instinct for that dog to chase. When you're laying that track, and then again, guys, we could talk about this for days. When you're dragging a track, you're dragging an item, i.e., I use a little foot by foot. I got a foot square, and a foot square bear hide. That's what I drag. Bear hide's been scraped down. It's been used multiple times. I spray a little scent on it, and I drag it. So I'm laying a foot pad across the grass in a straight line. And we all know that that's not a natural scent picture for a dog, because they're either running steps or they're running off the skin cells. So it's not going to, when you run skin cells, it's more like connect the dots. The dog goes point A to point B to point C to point D, and that's how they trail. That's just to give you guys a visual. When you're laying a solid odor across the ground and you're crushing vegetation in a solid path, that's not normal. And I think the dogs instinctively know that. I think that instinctively they kind of know that, hey, I got this odor, and this odor leads me to food, so I'm going to follow it, but it's something not right about it. So just for you guys to paint that picture. And when you turn them on live game, that puts them into that prey mode, so you should get a dog that's more vocal at that point. So don't be concerned if they don't open on the drag. Bryce, I did do something. I don't know if I told you this or I didn't. So when you told me you had put her food up on the hay bale. Yep. So when you and I talked about that and you said you couldn't get her to tree, I'm like, okay, so let me think through this a minute. So it was within the next week or so, I laid a track that was very easy because I'm putting a different problem at the end of it. They're not going to be able to find it down on the ground and just run to it and eat. So I laid a very easy track, and I don't think it had very much age to it either. And I put my bowl in the big tree up here in the yard, which, so the fork of the tree is probably about 3 foot to 4 foot up. There's a very fork of the tree. It's a big silver maple. So the fork's really low. And I'm like, I'm going to see what they do, because you and I talked about that. So I laid the track, turned them loose on it. Out of 4 puppies, one of them sat down and started treeing. Just sit down, broncs. And I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe this is something I can incorporate. But what happens if they don't tree, and what happens if they don't stay? Then it's kind of like a punishment for doing your job. It's like not getting a paycheck. You just went out and done your job. You just went out and dug that ditch. But I don't think I'm going to pay you today.
Right.
So I'm conflicted about that. I'm going to do some testing with it to see. And I know in canine training, and guys, I'll give you a little, remember we talk about baby steps. Jarrett and Moss and I talked about baby steps. So when we do building searches, our dogs have to alert us to the presence of a human odor. So the way they do that is they get vocal. They bark. Well, our dogs are not tree dogs, right? They're working dogs. They're herders, even though they will bark. So when I'm teaching a dog to, start barking on the presence of human odor, there is a process. And and I'll give you a very easy, simple example. I put the dog at a door, and I have the decoy, i.e. Bryce would be standing behind the door with his foot up against the door with the door cracked, and I know you guys can't see it, but I'd have that door cracked just about a half an inch. And when that dog come by that door and give me a behavioral change, because your odor is going to catch his attention, I'm going to have Bryce blow through that crack, just and I'm putting that odor, my odor, out there, even doubling it. And if the dog does not bark, then I'll probably start making a little bit of a noise. I may click a little bit, and then I'll blow a little bit, and I'll get that dog to where he's vocal. I only want one bark to start with. That's it. That dog barks one time, that door comes open, and he gets his reward, whether it's the person, a toy, however you're training the end process. So back to the tree, Bronx actually sat down and started like barking. And I probably give it longer than I should. The other dogs were there and they were winding it and they were getting up on the tree. Everybody showed interest, but he was the only one that was vocal. So interesting that you did that, Bryce. And I'm not sure how to incorporate it or if I should, but I like that thought process that you had.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I was just, trying to duplicate what I'm wanting from her in the end. Mm-hmm. And like I said, at that age, they are very young and impressionable. So I didn't want to get her down and discouraged, which is why whenever she followed the track to the hay bale, she sniffed up the hay bale, but I did have the bowl on top of it, so she mm-hmm. couldn't. And I say hay bale, guys, I'm talking a round bale, mm-hmm. For our cattle. So she could not see the bowl.
Yep.
And so she knew it was there, and she circled that round bale 2 or 3 times. She's like, "It's here," and she did bark twice, I think. But in my mind, and this is where I'm a novice, and I had to talk to you about it. You said if she would have just barked once, give her the reward. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, she's not treeing, like that's not treeing. So she wasn't doing it to my satisfaction, and that's where I probably screwed up there. But I learned from it, So the next time we did that, when she barked one time, I gave her that reward. So we did that a couple times, and I tried to hide it a couple different places. So she knows it goes up. Mm-hmm. She knows that, but she is just not excited enough to just sit down and hammer down tree dog yet.
Yeah, and another thing for you guys that's listening, if you're trying this or thinking about it, food is a calming source. It is not an excitable. Yeah, the dog. Our dogs get excited. My dogs, when I get ready to go feed, they're barking and carrying on. But that's classical conditioning. That's different. When we train explosive dogs, we do not want them chasing a toy because the toy represents prey. The rabbit running. That toy looks to the dog is like a rabbit running. So I use food to reward because it keeps the dog calm and mellow. I give him a little bit of treat. I give him a handful of food. He nibbles down, and we go on. I don't have a bull in a china shop, per se, on explosives. So just to kind of give you a visual, your dog may never bark at food. And then you got to think about, too, the slick treeing part. What happens if you get this dog cranked up, and he does start barking, and what happens when you move him to the woods, and he gets frustrated, and he wants paid? So I just plop a squat at the base of the tree, and here I am. So there's a lot of things that go into this. And if you're thinking like Bryce is, like outside the box and moving, you've got to be careful about what you do and how you do it. And I don't have some of the answers to this because I've not done it yet myself. And Miguel, we talked to Miguel, we talked to Clinton Sillers, and, they're in the tracking mode. They're wanting to track. The tree means nothing to them, which it changes for you and I. So it's kind of a trial and error. Don't get frustrated because your dogs are going to go like it's going to be like a roller coaster, especially the younger dogs. And then the older dogs, it may take them a little bit longer to understand the task that you're asking them to do if you start trying to implement this. I've had several people message me and ask me like, I've got a 2-year-old dog. You think I could do that? And I'm like, well, I think if it was me, I'd just take the dog hunting. Like, for me, I think I just go to the woods. But, again, they're forward-thinking. They're trying to figure out ways to do things. So, anyway, don't get frustrated, and it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. The first video I sent Bryce, like, all my pups were down, tails wagging, like, noses popping on the ground. He's like, I'm not getting that behavior. Like, I'm not getting that intensity.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, overall, I am pleased with how she did it. Like I said, I kind of run out of room. I didn't get to do it as long as I would have liked to, just because I ran out of room with the property that I'm working with. Like I said, I have 0 trees in my yard. It's flat cattle pasture is all it is. So I did take her to a couple places sometimes. I did go out to like my father-in-law's and tried to do it in his woods, lacing tracks through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And she did find the food there, but I mean, it's 20 minutes away from me, and not that that's an excuse, but it's just not convenient when you're trying to be consistent and do it every single night, just to drive somewhere to do a 3-minute exercise.
Right.
Yep. So, but no, I'm pleased with it. Like I said, she's hunting by herself. She's starting to open a little bit. She'll figure it out with age. I'm pretty confident.
Yeah. The natural, her DNA is made. She's made the tree. She's going to tree. So I wouldn't fret it. So let's run down the bee litter real quick, and then we'll move into the Thursday hunt. The bee litter. So guys, I bred my Kate female, which is my little Kemp female. Bred her to a nice dog out of Pennsylvania. I had 5 puppies, and of course I had to give Matt one of them, and I kept the rest of the litter. And I think I hurt some feelings because a lot of people was asking about those dogs, but I'm keeping them until I decide what I want to do with them. And I may end up keeping them all, and I may end up keeping 1 or 2. I don't know. I've got 3 males and 1 female. Matt took the other little female, which is a splitting image of her mama. I didn't want to let her go. Like that was the agreement. You get a pup for the stud fee. So, so it's the bee litter. They are, they will be turning 6 months old. So we named them, Bronx, Bridger. And I'll tell you the story behind Bridger is the podcast that Chris did with Bridger Petrini about the bear biting him in the leg. So Bridger was the first pup born, and for whatever reason, Kate decided that she was going to move out of the dog box, dig a hole in the lot. So I have pavers down in my lot, the lot for the puppies. I have a 3x3 spot in the corner that is nothing but sand for them to use the bathroom in. So it's like it's like a litter box. Mm-hmm. She went out there and dug a hole in that and had the rest of the pups, and she squished 3 of them. So I had 8 total. And Bridger, she had left him in the doghouse. And when I went out that morning, he was screaming bloody murder. And I mean, just, yo. When I told you, I was like, he's not going to make it. I said, he's not going to make it. Well, they brought him in and got him warm, and how he did, I don't know, but they worked a miracle. And she said she wanted to call him Bridger because Bridger, cool because of Bridger. She had listened to that podcast and she thought that was neat. So Bronx, Bridger, Briggs, and Bridger and Briggs get me so tired. I'll be talking to one of them, be saying the other one's name, even though I'm sitting there looking at them. And then Bishop. And Bishop is the little female, and she's named Bishop off of NCIS. Lord have mercy, all of her names come from whatever. So
hey, I have a dog who's got a name off NCIS when my mom and dad do. Ziva.
Ziva? That's what she wants to name the German short-haired pointer she's not getting. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, Ziva. And she wants to call one, when we have a G litter, she wants Gibbs. She's like, hurry up, and I was like, no. So, yeah, she wants to name one Gibbs. Nobody take that name. So 3 males, 1 female. I started this tracking process that Bryce and I are talking about at 10 weeks old. I run it up to about 3 months old I haven't done it, since season come in. So, I done it about 3 months, and that was pretty solid for the first couple of weeks. And then it was every other day, every 3rd or 4th day, and I judged it on the litter, how they were acting, how they performing, and then I actually run out of space, just like what Bryce said. Briggs decided he was going to run around with his head up in the air till he could find it, and he was shortcutting the process. So anyway, I stopped at that. I'm excited about them. I know that I can't train 4 pups. I know that. I know that you can't. I've always been told, and in fact, Doug Temple even said it on the podcast. If you got 1, you're running 1. If you're running 2, you're running none. If you're running 3, you're not training anything. So, and I know that. I know that it's hard. Like you can't handle that many pups. So I don't know what I'm gonna do yet, but I do like what I see out of all of them. When I started first doing my prey drive test with them, which, I talked about having a flirt pole with a little rag on the end of it and them chasing it around. And it's so funny to watch these litters like change. So Bishop was the most aggressive one. Like, she would literally kill herself to get to that. And actually what I did is I took a piece of bear hide and implemented it instead of the piece of leather. So I switched it. Literally, she'd grab a hold of that, she'd drop her feet, and literally, like you were dragging her and the piece of hide. Bronx, he's the bigger male. He's more laid back, and like he'll sit back and watch. He don't roam like the other three. When I come home from work, they'll be down here in the barnyard or who knows, up in the field somewhere, and he's usually sitting here in the yard watching me come up the driveway. But he was the least interested in. He would do it as the pack, but he'd do it for a few seconds and then he'd be on. So I was like you, Bryce. I was able to catch a coon, and I did things a little different. I put the coon in a hidden location and let them wander around until they found it. He was the first one that found it, and he went ballistic right off the bat, where the other ones were standoffish. And then, of course, as the pack started figuring it out, everybody got involved and so on and so forth. But it's very interesting to watch them develop. And I will say, out of the last two litter, well, a litter, the accidental litter, and this litter, I told somebody this the other day, and I don't remember who it was. At 8 weeks old, you don't know. I'm telling you, just don't know. Yeah, the pup may have good actions. It may do this and it may do that. But at 5 months old, it's probably going to be a completely different dog. And I'm seeing that pretty consistently. Out of the A litter, I kept Axe and Attica and Allie. You guys know I kept Allie. That was my pick. And because I can't hunt 3 dogs and I had other dogs coming, I ended up letting Clater have her. I got her started, let Clater have her, and she's like, she does a good job. Like, I kind of kick myself in the butt. Mm-hmm. But just the change in those dogs over from between a year and whether or not 2 yet, just the change in the year and a half in them is pretty amazing. It's neat to see. And like the dogs that have the most nerves, and as a puppy, they come out and they're into everything and nothing scares them. And then at 4 months old, it's like, where did that dog come from? Like it's like they flip a switch.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons I've started keeping the litters longer. Like I feel like between, 6, 8, 9 months old, you can really have a little bit better grip. And that's when we start looking at our police dogs. We've gotten a little younger, 8. We're looking at them 9, 10, 11 months old now. So that's just my thought process, my what I'm thinking. I'm excited about this litter. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll keep you updated on that.
Yeah, I'm actually in a unique position right now myself with this, because I'm going to try it again. I've got a litter of pups right now on the ground that are 3 weeks old, and they're 3 weeks old today. And so we own the pup's grandmama. That was my boy's dog that he was hunting for a long time. He made her a Grand Night champion. So we own her, and a pup out of her. She only had 1 litter, and one of the female pups out of her come up for sale right here local. So we bought her knowing what her mama was. And as soon as she come in heat like literally 3 days after we bought her. So as soon as she come in heat, we bred her to Dorch's drive line. So I have hunted with some pups out of drive, and I have really, really, really liked what I've seen out of those pups. So we decided to breed this dog to drive, and I'm curious to see what happens, because this Jip that the pups are out of, she goes back to Dick Brothers stuff. Charlie Creek Big Mike. So it's got a little bit of older blood in her. And like I said, we have the pup's grandma, and we've hunted her. So I know what to expect on her side, I think. So like I said, I'm curious to try this event again, because, I want to see what happens with dogs that I have a little bit of knowledge of. Like I said, I know the stud. I've hunted with pups at him. I've seen what they're doing. The mama, we know a little bit more about her mama. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I do have several pups available. If anybody's looking for a competition coonhound, get a hold of me. I'm only keeping one. I'm up to my eyeballs in dogs. So I'm going to keep one, and I might not keep any if there's enough interest. But like I said, that's what I'm excited about, is to try this again. Tramp, by the time these pups get ready to go, Tramp will be over a year old. So I'll kind of have a better understanding of what I'm working with her, and then we'll start the process again.
Well, I know you'll keep me updated. All right. Do you want to let the listeners off the hook?
Yeah, I know. We've kept them on here for a while. We've rambled a lot longer than I thought we were going to.
Yes, we have. This is kind of flew by.
Nikki just came in here and gave me the side eye like, dinner's ready.
Tell her I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. So, okay, Thursday. You want to tell a story, or do you want me to tell a story? Because there's two different angles to this story.
I'll tell my version.
Okay.
All right. So the weather the first couple of days was decent. I don't do a lot of rigging in December. We were hunting this one area, and it's easy to rig it out, and then if you don't do anything, then just walk. And we ended up walking later that day, or Wes, Wes and them did. So we rig a track. Well, we start rigging. I don't know. We're a couple miles, three miles. I don't know. We was in our ways or on the road a ways, and Spook. Is he the only one that opened?
He is. No. Kate opened just a smidge.
Yeah. So Spook kind of give me a halfway bark, something that and my dogs aren't they'll run a coyote, and Spook's got a growl in his bark. I know you've heard me say that when he rigs a coyote, but he didn't have that growl. But it was not a convincing here it is. It was and I even told Bryce, I'm like, He said, we
considered passing it up because it wasn't a box shaker. Like, it was nothing great.
It was pretty weak. Like, it was like you said, it was weak enough we were getting ready to drive by it. And I'm like, what the crap? Let's just see what happens. So I put Spook and Kate and Attica down, and Spook drifts up on a ridge, I don't know, 200 yards or more, somewhere in there.
Yeah, nothing crazy.
Yeah, and he opened a couple times. The rest of the dogs went to him, and as they started opening, I started feeding dogs in, and I had 7 with me that day. I typically hunt 6, but I had a little Sass with me. Yep. And when I turned her loose, man, she was like a rocket. She was gone. And anyway, they went out the ridge, and they ended up crossing the road in front of us. Didn't see no bear, but we seen the back dogs. And anyway, they went up the valley and treed. And I'm like, holy cow.
And they weren't far off the road. They were, less than 200 yards off the road.
Yeah. So we pull up there and we holler and say, hey, the dogs are treed. And everybody's like, yeah. So Bryce and I, we get in, we walk in there, we got to walk through a swamp.
Now, hold up, back up. You'd went in before I did
to catch Sassy. To catch Sassy.
To catch Sassy.
Yep.
And neither one of us had any intentions on killing a bear.
Mm-mm.
So you didn't pack a gun.
Mm-mm.
And I think I made the comment, I said, well, do you want me to take the sidearm just in case? And you're like, not a bad idea. You're like, I'm going in there to catch Sassy. You get your stuff ready, meet me in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I fumbled around at the truck for a few minutes, getting the sidearm on, getting things where it needed to be. And I was probably 3 minutes behind you.
Yep. So I get through the swamp and I break out of the laurel thicket and I can see it hanging off the side of the tree. And I think I waited. Now, did I have him tied up or was I tying him up?
You were starting to tie him up. And whenever I got in there, I had literally just enough time to break through the laurel thicket, looked up, it registered in my brain. Yep, they've got a bear tree, and shoop, there went the bear. Come on down.
Yeah. So
I never even made it to the tree.
Yeah. I know I had Sassy tied up because that was my goal, was to catch her. Well, it comes out and it literally, she's tied 10 yards from the tree, and she sees it, and like she's like getting excited and barking. So I cut her back loose with the other dogs because none of them were tied. I tied her. That's what I had tied. And they went about 50, 60 yards and treed again.
Nothing far at all. But it was like a swampy area, like you sink up to about your shins in mud.
Yeah. And and I will say, like, when it come out of the tree, it was a scuffle, and Bryce was kind of looking at me, and I'm like, it happens.
Yeah, well, like you said, I didn't even hardly have a chance to get to the tree. I just saw there was a bear, and then it come out, and I'm still huffing and puffing because I was trying to keep up with you. And yeah, it was the first tree was nothing crazy, but there definitely was a little scuffle.
Mm-hmm. So they go 60 yards and tree again, and we get in there, and I mean, I don't know how everybody else is, but I tie my old dogs first. Like, I don't want them hurt. I don't want something happening to them. So I had Sassy. I tied Sassy up first, and she was treeing. Like, that flipped us. Her seeing that thing come out in front of her, like, she was barking. Now, was she toenailed in? No, not like she was Friday, but she was treeing. So I caught Spook and Kate, and I had just tied Kate up. And Bryce walks around the tree, and here.
So hold on. So we go in there, and like I said, neither one of us had any intentions on harvesting this bear, and we had relayed the message across the radio. We have a bear, and somebody, I forget who it was, said they were on their way. Mm-hmm. So in my head, I looked up. Yeah, the bear was hanging on the side of the tree, but to me, and I'm not an experienced bear hunter by any stretch of the term, but the bear didn't look uncomfortable, I guess, to me. And I am so used to being the camera guy, because most of the time when I go on these hunts, I'm the one filming them. So I'm sitting here worried about getting a good shot. I'm like, okay, Heath tying dogs up, bear's in the air, I'm going to get some footage. And so I've got my phone in my hand trying to get some footage for Facebook Reels and stuff.
For Semper Dogging.
That's right, for Semper Dogging. And here come this bear out of the tree, guys. And I'm telling you, I was literally 1.5 feet away from this bear face to face. I mean, literally 1.5 feet from this bear. He's hanging on the tree. He's looking at me, and I'm looking at him. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this is the best footage I've ever got. And then it comes out, and dogs and bear are rolling, and I start screaming at Bryce, shoot it. And Bryce looks at me like, what do you want me to do? And then it dawned on him that, I got a gun. And even though this was only probably 10, 15, 20 seconds, it was like slow motion. He throws his phone up in the air. He throws his phone, grabs the gun. The bear literally comes around the tree on the side that he's on. And, he's able to harvest a bear. So yeah, but no. So on my perspective of that, that was Heath's, and that is an accurate statement. But there's two sides to every story, and I heard it differently. So the bear comes out, and like I said, I'm getting footage of the bear. Well, the bear and the dogs start to do the old two-step tango, and in my head, I'm like, okay, that's not good. Like, we need to get the bear separated from the dogs. But I didn't know how to separate the bear from the dogs because neither one of us packed a gun into the tree. That was what was going through my head because we had no intentions on harvesting the bear. And Heath's sidearm is not something that I'm used to carrying. It's not like my everyday carry that I'm like, oh, yeah, there it is. And so I know he'd been yelling a few times. And then, like he said, it just clicked. He's like, shoot. And I was like, oh, yes, I do have the gun. But then once I got the gun unholstered, preparing to harvest the bear, it's like everything stopped kind of slow-mo. And all I hear in the background is, don't shoot my dogs.
I did say that. Absolutely. I said, don't kill my dogs.
So, got a couple rounds fired off and was able to, ethically dispatch the bear without harming any of the dogs. And oh my gosh, guys, like, you talk about an adrenaline rush because we went from no plan on harvesting the bear to things got western. They're doing the two-step tango, rolling around on the ground. The bear is now harvested. The dogs are still barking. Heath's like got his hands scratching through the little hair he has left on his head. And I'm pretty sure I went ahead and wiped him out on the rest of it because he was stressed out. I'm stressed out. I didn't know. I was like, what just happened.
You said that. You literally said that when we got everything done and the dogs tied up. You were like, "Wow, what happened?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because we like." I'm horrible. I don't carry. I hate carrying a gun. I have no desire to kill a bear, and then I end up in the middle of something like that where you end up. I mean, and I think about this a lot. Like training, if that was training season, we'd have just had to let them work it out. And
yeah, and there would have been some tore up dogs because that bear had, I think it was Trip. He had Trip down.
No, he had Hootie by the face. Remember he got Houdini by the face.
Yeah, but he ended up balling up Trip.
Yeah, he rolled Trip. Yeah. So yeah, that was that was in a 2-minute span. Well, however long it took us to walk from the first tree to the second tree to tie 3 dogs up and turn around, like. It went west, like everybody knows bear hunting stuff happens. It just does. But yeah, man, like it was it went from 0 to 100 in
real quick.
Yes,
like and I'm gonna tell on myself a little bit just because it's a funnier part of the story. You know, you guys have heard people here on the podcast. Well, you've heard Heath on the podcast give Wes a hard time about shooting all the time. You know, he just fires off every round he's got in a gun. Well, you know, I'm shooting a revolver here, and it took me, I never did have a real good, clear shot at the bear. So I fired off 4 rounds. I only got 1 left. And the last round is what dispatched the bear. And I'm sitting here, like I said, I'm trying to figure out what just happened. I got no shells left. I didn't think to bring extra shells. Mm-mm. And Wes comes across the radio or saw me in person. One of the times he looks at me, he goes, "Well, what's all them shots you had going on there? You run out of shells?" So he had a chance to poke some fun at me. And, you know, it's all part of the camaraderie, which we love. You know, that's one of the best parts about hound hunting is the camaraderie. You know, got the bear out of there. And then one thing, you know, Greg showed up and I was able to show Greg what a bear looked like in case he forgot, you know, because you heard earlier that the bear had run past him a couple of days before.
Well, no, we got to finish this. We got to finish it. We got to wrap this up. So after we got the bear out, it was Bryce's biggest bear. It was over 200. And a good bull bear. Like I said, we were leaving it. Like there was no intention to do that. And then, you know, just to keep the dogs getting tore all to pieces and everything else, it is what it is. But so after we got the bear out, got some pictures taken and everything else, I tell Wesley, I said, "Hey, you need to go here and check this out." Well, he gets in 200 yards, finds a track, the dog Maggie and Jake are opening, and he ends up popping it right out of the bed.
Yeah, another bear.
Yeah, and he runs that one by Greg.
Yep.
It come out because Richard said, "Oh, it about hit the truck. Like it about run into Rooster's truck." So.
Oh, yeah, it was good. But no, I was very pleased with that bear. You know, had no intentions on taking it, but it was a nice bear. Over 200, which is what you said your goal was for the year, was don't take anything under 200. We accomplished that goal.
Yeah. It
was just a beautiful bear. You know, it's at the taxidermist right now. So I am gonna have a mount done on that bear. We got all the meat off of it. I came home and, you know, within 2 days I was having bear burgers.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, delicious. And then I actually, you know, I rendered the fat this year. So that was something I'd never done before. And I think you still have a bag of fat in your fridge in your basement.
Yeah, you left some of it here.
Yeah, I had 2 big bags of it and forgot one, but you'll have that. So I rendered down what I had and was able to get 4 good mason jars rendered down out of it. And I actually today, before this podcast, I used it for the first time. I went ahead and shined up my nice going out boots. We got an event this weekend that I needed some good boots for. So shined them up with some bear grease, got the belt shined up, and I'm just excited, you know, to use the whole thing and put the whole thing to good use. So
yeah, and that's what we want to do. Yeah. So you haven't cooked with it yet?
I have not cooked with it yet. Yeah. No, I haven't used it as like a lard or a grease or anything yet.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, Bryce, I think we've probably worn out a welcome on this one today, but maybe we can come back around. But yeah, like had a good season. You know, Bryce, we always have a good time when Bryce is down, and we do pick and carry on with each other, and you know, like that's what makes it fun is being able to tell those stories. You know, 20 years from now, and ride Wesley, and Wesley gives Greg more of a fit than anybody. And I'm like,
he had him down. He had him so down he wouldn't even come on the radio the next day. He made us think he left staying in bed. Hunter was by himself.
That's true. So, anything you want to leave us with, Bryce?
No, guys, I'm good. Like I said, he's mentioned it. We've probably worn out our welcome here, but you get two buddies talking about good times, and that's just what you get. So, guys, keep following Heath. He's doing a great job with the journey. He's teaching, training, and helping people learn every single week. He does a great job with his show. So, keep following him. Make sure you follow him everywhere on his Instagram and social media and all that stuff. He puts out some great reels. I'm kind of jealous of the reels he puts out for you guys with some tips and tricks and all that good stuff. So keep it up, buddy. You're doing a great job.
All right, y'all go over to Bryce and follow Semper Dog and him and bash him.
Yep, it's a good time. So I'm good, brother, man. I'm hungry.
All right, peace out.
See you, brother.
Yep.